Mr. John Langan, how are you?
Good morning, Dominic.
You doing good?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I am good. I'm surprised that you're sitting talking to me because you are one busy woodworker.
Yeah, I have to take a break every now and then.
Yeah, well, I don't know that you do. I understand from our pre-interview. And so for people who are listening to the show, I think everybody knows by now, you and I have chatted a couple of times just to get ready for the show. And I understand you're also getting your pilot's license.
I have all my ratings. I'm a commercial instrument rated flight instructor. So I do fly general aircraft.
Ah, okay. So what does that mean? What's that?
General aviation, which means I am not in the mainstream of the commuter airline industry, but more what they call general aviation. So private aviation.
Ah, okay. So what size plane does that mean?
I fly a Bonanza A36. It's a single piston passenger plane.
Yeah. Does that mean
Range
you can take me to
500 miles?
Could you take me to remote fishing and hunting lakes all over the world?
We're leaving for the Bahamas. You're more than welcome to join us.
There's some fishing in the Bahamas. Now we've got people's interest.
Yeah.
Fishing.
Wahoo season.
Yeah, that's right. There you go. There you go. But the reason that we have you here today is because you run a woodworking company like everybody else who listens to this show. And actually, John, let me back up for a second. Mr. John Langan, who the heck are you? And how do you come to be speaking to this worldwide group of cabinet makers, architecture millworkers, and furniture makers?
Well, I'm a working business owner that I started a company called JL Molding Design just about 20 years ago. Our platform was to work for the residential homeowner for providing upgrades, whether it's adding crown molding, wainscoting, all the way up to our custom cabinet line.
Mm. So you're right in there. You're doing really what they need. And this is on the remodeling side, or is it new homes?
Some new homes that people are buying and GCing themselves. They'll hire us to do a full design consultation, which means we'll lay out all the moldings for the appropriate size. I kind of find myself pulling back when customers ask for too much. I find it's better to get done what you want first and add to it later. Instead of feeling overwhelmed by throwing too much at it.
That sounds like something you've learned through painful, drawn out experience.
Being a business owner, you're always learning. There's always things that you learn from dealing with different clients, from dealing different situations on your own, and always looking to improve. You find yourself falling short of something or not telling someone all the options, and then you just kind of change your business model to include that in the future.
Yeah. So you learn from your mistakes as you go forward, is what you're saying.
Yeah, and everyone makes mistakes, and it's okay.
Yeah. Have you always been a cabinet maker, installer? Have you always been in the moldings business?
No, my background is a police officer. I worked 30 years in a city environment.
Okay.
I was retired this August, and found that we had a lot of time off. So 20 years ago, I started to do some things on my own. Doing some general renovations around the house. Introducing that to the neighbors. They were impressed with it. So to kind of learn to get into it, I started doing all my neighbors' houses.
Wow. So you were a police officer at the same time as running this business.
Yeah, I was a police officer for 30 years, and I've run this company just about 20 years now. For 20 years, I worked 8 days a week.
Yeah, hold on. I'm doing the math here. 8 days a week. How does that?
Yeah, it's just an exaggeration.
No, I know. Well, it's not much of an exaggeration, really.
Yeah, well, I worked the afternoon shift, so I would go in at 4:00 and work till 3 in the get up early. I'd do my estimates, I'd run job sites, and go right back to work in the afternoon.
Wow. Where do you find the energy to do that? Do you, what are your tricks to staying sharp and focused?
Motivation and passion. If you love something that you do, that gives you the energy to keep pushing forward.
And what part of this business do you love doing?
Customer satisfaction.
Yeah.
I love seeing owners' joys on their faces to see what their home has now become. And I hear it all the time. We'll do such enhancements that they told me, hey, we pulled the table in the entry foyer and had a glass of wine and just kind of looked around and saw all the new moldings to the house. And it's
oh, that's a nice feeling. So they actually went and sat in the foyer with a glass of wine, which is not a place you normally sit, right?
Correct. And they just kind of wanted to just take it all in.
Yeah.
So that's a good feeling, is, making someone fall in love with their house again.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned moving forward as well, and always educating yourself. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it sounds like you're always looking for new information, and you've just become a pilot. I mean, I don't know what other certifications you've got, but you seem to be a student of the things that you're interested in.
I think anyone that is a business owner will always be a student. You're always learning.
Yeah. How do you? So I think. I know that I agree, you agree, and I believe everybody listening to this show agrees, because the show is, a podcast is free. There's no barrier to entry. Nobody's stopping anyone from listening to it. And we have thousands of listeners, but we also have hundreds of thousands of people who don't listen.
Yeah.
Who are also cabinet makers. They're in the molding business, architectural mill workers. And in my mind, I feel bad for them. It feels like they're stumbling through. It feels like they're wandering. Now, maybe they're reading books or they're doing other things, but I want everybody to have this good information and to hear from people like you about how you did it, how you got there, what you're learning along the way.
Yeah, I would say that the thing that attributed to my success is customer satisfaction. You focus on the customer. You train your employees to work in their environment as if it was their own home. We're not sloppy workers. We understand that having people do construction in their home that they live in is stressful. We make sure we put down plenty of tarps. We vacuum when we're done. We're very careful around the house. And just the quality work is word of mouth to other people.
Yeah. So how do you know what the next piece of education is for you? Like, how do you, this is going to come across sounding negative, but I don't mean it that way. How do you know where your gap is? What happens to you? So you go, you know what, I need more information here, or I need something different there. What's that process for you?
Customer feedback. Your customers will tell you how to improve. So I always ask them whether we did an excellent job. I always say, hey, you had a great experience. What could we do better? What was something that you experienced that you would have liked to see us do differently?
Right.
A lot of times it's just, no, you guys were great. Sometimes it's, well, there was some sawdust left in the driveway. If you could, clean up the sawdust a little bit better. Sometimes when it's wet outside, there's no way to get the sawdust off the wet driveway. But customer feedback is your best input to improving.
It's interesting that you say customer feedback, because I had a client many years ago, and people on this that have listened to the show may have heard this story before. But when I was asking the business owner what quality meant, he just blurted out to me what quality meant to him, but not to the customer. Now, this particular business was an HVAC business.
Okay.
It was a father and two sons business. The dad passed away and the two brothers were now running it. I came into the picture after one of the brothers died suddenly. And so there was an incredible amount of stress on that on the brother who was, I didn't want to say the last brother, on the brother who was remaining, because suddenly he had to take care of his mom, right? Because they bought the business from the dad, and the sister-in-law and the kids. And so a lot of stress on him. So I said, what does quality mean? And he's like, well, we have to make sure that, at the heating unit, at the hot water tank, this is done. And I came back and I said, I don't think that's what the customer thinks quality is. And so we had a little bit of back and forth, and we came up with the brilliant idea. Why don't we ask them? And do you know what they came back with, John?
What's that?
The craziest stuff. Show up on time.
Yes.
Don't wear your dirty boots in my house.
Okay.
Show up on time. Don't wear your dirty boots in my house. Oh, and bill me what you said you were going to bill me.
Yes. People do not want to hear a price initially. And for whatever mistake, it's my responsibility as a business owner, when I provide a cost to a client, that I hold true to that. It's up to me to do the research. So if I made a mistake and prices have increased, that's on me. So people don't want to feel swindled and kind of bait and switch, where they're let in for one price and they receive a bill. If there are any contingencies that's found, we always talk to the client and say, this is what we've discovered. What direction do you want us to take it? Do you want us to fix it? Do you want us to change it? And let them make a decision. And they feel much better knowing they're involved in the process.
Yeah. How do you, within that scope, I agree with you, by the way, if I give somebody a price, I stick to it. And right now, prices are going through the roof. Yes. How do you deal with that? Where, a piece of plywood that used to be X is now X plus $32.
Yeah.
How do you?
In our contract, we stipulate the prices were valid for 30 days initially.
Oh, okay.
Due to the pandemic, that has all changed, and prices were very volatile through the first probably 2 quarters of this year. We then started to make revisions in the contract to say, hey, prices are valid for 14 days. Then around early summer, when they started changing bi-weekly, we pulled it down to every 7 days. And I have an agreement with my supplier that if they quote me a price, they guarantee me that price is valid for 7 days, and I pass it on to the client.
So you clearly state in your agreement, do you call it a contract or an agreement?
I'm trying to think what the title is on it.
It's okay, but
it's just a contract.
Yeah. But you say in there very clearly, and you have the discussion with the business owner, hey, listen, who thought we'd be talking about global supply chain issues here in, what town are you in?
I live in Hillsborough, New Jersey.
Hillsborough, New Jersey. Nice. So who thought we'd be talking about global supply chain issues here in New Jersey? But what's happening around the world does affect us. A piece of plywood that used to be X dollars is now X plus $40. Just so you guys know, things could change. So you have that conversation.
Yes, absolutely. Always keep the customer informed.
Yeah. It's something interesting. And I have this conversation more often than I think I should. Did you always operate with a contract, with an agreement?
Within the state of New Jersey, the law requires that anyone that performs a work for anyone where the bill is greater than $500, you are required to have a written agreement. I go one step further. My written agreement incorporates some real estate law where it says if you deposit the money, you have 3 days, like a right of rescission. If you've deposited money within 3 days and you cancel for any reason, there's no money kept.
Right.
It also says that if materials are purchased, that deposit will pay for the materials. You keep the materials, but the balance is that then returned back to you.
Okay. I've just encountered, and I know not everybody listening is in New Jersey. They're all throughout the United States. There's some in Canada. There's lots in Australia, New Zealand, and South Africa, and I should say Ireland and England as well. I don't want to miss anybody. There's some guys in South America I didn't mention, but people are all over is the point. But I'm amazed at how often people really don't work with a contract or an agreement. You know, they might say, well, we get a PO or a signed estimate, but I just feel like there's so much exposing your throat in that. Like, it's not good for me and it's not good for the customer.
Yeah, it's not so much to cover liability because, you know, in the long run, if something was to be challenged, the courts do favor the customer over the contractor.
All the time.
It's something that is spelled out. It's required by law, and it makes them feel comfortable. When people have something in writing that you want to stand behind, it just makes them comfortable. And to me, it's more professional.
Yeah. One of the things that I really like in an agreement, and I believe in plain language agreements. Anybody that's read my book or follows me here, I just talk in normal English. There's no need to.
There's no jargon that's meant to trick or confuse anybody.
No.
I do make them initial after each paragraph so they can say they fully read it. I always say, if you have any questions, ask me. There's never anything to trick or deceive you, but there's clauses. And honestly, when I started, my contract was a page long. It's now 3 pages because different things that I've come across that people say, hey, well, what about this? I go, oh, better put that in writing.
Yeah. So constantly evolving, and still 3 pages is not long.
Yeah. I don't know how many points I'm up to now, but it is on the 3rd page.
Yeah. Well,
it's completely fair too.
Yeah. Well, it does need to be fair. But it also needs to lay out things that I call dates and gates. And dates and gates are, for instance, the deposit date. And then the gates are when this happens, then we get another progress payment. Then when this happens, we get another. And obviously this is state or province or region specific, whatever your local laws are, you have to follow those. Mm-hmm. But those dates and gates can help with cash flow immensely because just getting 50% up front and then waiting for the other 50% can kill you.
We found that we broke our payment terms down into thirds. So a third upon initially signing the contract allows me to order materials and have them delivered to you. Yeah. They feel comfortable giving money to someone that they haven't worked with and actually receiving materials. So like, okay, that's a gate. We trust the guy. We gave him money and we have something for it. So because our jobs are kind of quick turnaround jobs, we don't sit on job sites for weeks on end. Our jobs run anywhere from a day to 3 days. That the next third is due upon the completion of day 1. And then the balance is due upon completion once the customer has looked everything over and they're satisfied.
Sure. And this is a question that happens in some local areas, but do you have holdbacks in New Jersey?
Not in the industry that we work within. Our contracts are 50,000 and under. So I don't have any bonds or holdbacks for my company.
So just for people that are listening, whatever your local laws are, pay attention to those and make sure your contract or your agreement fits with those. And just a shameless plug for upcoming episodes. I have a lawyer who's going to be on here in the next couple of episodes talking about specifically construction law. And actually, we're really going to be talking about material price increases or material price substitutions. But those lawyers are out there. And, I buy insurance for my vehicle, but I don't expect to get in an accident. I still buy the insurance. Having a lawyer is the same thing. I want to make sure my ducks are in a row. I also want to make sure, in your agreement, you've been in business 20 years, no, 30 years now.
Yeah, so 30 years retired, and then I've been in the molding business for 20 years.
Right. Sorry, 30 years. You're not 30 years retired. 30 years as a police officer, and now you're retired.
Yeah, now I'm retired. Yes.
Yeah, 30 years retired sounds like you're about 150. Yeah.
Some days I feel I'm 150.
But either way, you have all of those things. You're up to a 3-page agreement after 20, 30 years in the business. So we're not talking about a massive document. Keep it simple so that we can move the transaction forward. Have those dates and gates so that everybody understands, hey, when we do this, then we get that. And it protects everybody. Good fences make good neighbors. So I'm glad to hear that you've got, a really well thought out procedure or process on agreements.
Yeah. And I've never had to fall back on it. I've never had to turn to the contract to resolve any issues. Again, the feedback online is everyone is 100% satisfied. And that's my goal. That's my goal. So I never have any problems. I don't leave any stones unturned. I talk a lot through the project before we start. So really the customers are never in the dark. So nothing ever comes up that they're shocked about.
Right. Yeah. Well, and that online feedback is it was more important than, it was before they had Yelp and Angie's List and reviews, sites and things like that.
Yeah. And those customer reviews, that feedback is hard to get. How many times have you gone to the grocery store or Lowe's or Home Depot and they take out the highlighter and they circle your receipt? Hey, fill out this survey for a chance to win $5,000. They just want your information in a survey. And most oftentimes we just throw that out and discard it. Yeah. So to get clients that we work for, even though they're completely thrilled, I'd say we get feedback 1 out of 20 jobs.
Yeah.
Now, if we did something wrong, there'd be feedback immediately that we did something wrong. But getting those feedbacks, and I would also try to offer some incentives. I would buy them a $25 restaurant gift card for every feedback on different platforms that we advertise on. That's 4 of them. So I would say, hey, for your efforts, we'll give you $25 for each feedback that you leave on a link. That's right. I didn't tell them what to leave. It's just a thank you for your efforts. And that seemed to drive the feedback up a little bit greater, but then all the restaurants closed.
Well, yeah, I guess that's a problem. Yeah. But you know what? It's like anything in life. We have to ask. So for those of you listening who have some negative feedback on your social profiles that you might feel is unjust, but it's there, you can't get rid of it. The way to deal with that first to understand that people would give you feedback on a negative experience faster than they would give you feedback on a positive one.
Absolutely.
So it's going to happen. Now go back, and this is to the people listening, go back and fix whatever the issue was. Right. But also go out and now try to get other people to leave positive feedback to push that one down lower in its importance, because people do pay attention to those reviews. They pay a lot of attention to them. And the littlest thing that somebody says in a review goes a long way when they make the decision.
How many times in our personal life have we gone to a restaurant or tried to book a hotel somewhere that we're unfamiliar with, and we look at the reviews? And you'll never find something that has 100% reviews, but we only focus on those one negatives. If someone said the bed was wrinkly or squeaky or dirty, like, oh, I don't want to go there. So negative reviews have a much greater impact than the positive ones, but you try to take the totality of all of them together.
Yeah. You have to be reasonable, right? And there's always people out there that are, I guess, what do we call them now? The Karens of the world that are.
Yeah. As hard as you try, sometimes it's just, you're unable to make someone happy, or they come up with some things that are unreasonable. But I've been very fortunate to not have to encounter that.
Yeah. Hey, let me ask you something. Since you're in people's houses all the time, what do you do to deal with pets? Do you deal with it in advance or do you deal with it after?
Pets?
Yeah. Like they've got a cat and you're using a nail gun and and you're new people to the house. So do you talk to people about their pets and say, hey, listen, I need you out of the house because ...
I'm an animal lover. So any animal interior I have a love for. I have 2 dogs of my own. When going into a situation with someone's house and I realize they have pets, or if I don't see, like cats, sometimes cats hide. And I always say, because we're in and out of the door, or we have to hold the door open to bring materials in, do you have any pets that may run out of the house? Like, oh, you're right. Let me put so-and-so in a bedroom or lock them or put a gate up. So it's a concern of mine. I would feel horrible if we had opened the door, one of my guys left the door open and
the dog got out or cat.
Yeah. So I do ask. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the reason I bring that up is because it is important to ask those questions. If you've had a problem with it in the past, asking that question, that homeowner is going to feel that they're just going to feel like you care more. But I also need to know that I don't want to worry about a dog that's going to be, yapping at the bottom of my ladder, or a cat that thinks it wants to sit at the top of the step ladder while I'm trying to work. But it also helps me have a clean, safe work site, because I don't worry about dropping something and the puppy's down there, playing around.
Although I do remember one situation where it was lunchtime and one of the guys was looking through his, carry-on case. He's like, hey, did you guys touch my sandwich? I'm like,
oh no,
we didn't touch the food. And then the dog is in the other room with like plastic on the floor and is like taking through it. So the dog stole a sandwich.
Dog stole it. So hopefully it wasn't Nutella or something chocolate. The dog's groaning. But those are reasons.
Yeah. To leave your lunch outside in the future.
Yeah. Watch for dogs. But the way I started this piece of the conversation was, how do you know what to fix next, or how do you know what to look at the gaps in your business? So what you said was, like, you're looking at where customer feedback came from. Is there anything else that makes you think, hey, I need to learn more about finance or operations or machinery or marketing? Like, what are the clues that set you off on that?
Machinery, we probably have 4 of everything. We have 4 trucks and a trailer. So there's really not too much extra that we need to buy. We always have something on hand in case something goes down. We can still complete the job. Financing, again, we're in that 50,000 and under range where we don't have to offer financing. We haven't found the need to.
Yeah.
And as far as marketing, my marketing budget is $0. We've been so successful over the years through word of mouth, through customer reviews, through fine-tuning meta tags on the web page, Google's algorithms for ranking us, page ranking, just by the keywords that we've integrated into the website, people search for, we page rank very high. So we've been very fortunate to get that word of mouth out and that web atmosphere, that web attention that people always go to search for something.
First thing they do, doesn't matter what, they're going to search.
Yeah. And the first thing for me, again, I was always trying to get feedback from people that I don't even work for is, how did you hear about us? Oh, you work for my cousin. I saw your trucks on the road. I just Googled and I saw your reviews. Your work looks great.
So good. Yeah.
I always try to learn how people find us. I do find that I've, over the years, tried to advertise, in that smart shopper that comes around in your, once a week in your mailbox. It has a list of coupons. That seems to attract a lot of people that are just interested in pricing. It takes at least 2.5 hours per customer for me to work up a price, whether it's talking to them, answering their questions, researching price, writing the proposals. So there's a great investment in time. And as a business owner, you want to make sure your investments are worthwhile.
Oh, I love it.
Different forms of advertising can attract people that are just curious. And there's nothing wrong. People love to go out and stroll on the weekends and window shop. Well, that's great when you have a store, everything's readily available. But whenever one of those customers come to me individually, that could really, take up a lot of my time.
Yeah. Well, that's good that you're valuing your time, because there is a cost, whatever your revenue is divided by the amount of hours that you work in a year. And that's your current revenue responsibility per hour. It's not your wage. It's what you're responsible for.
Correct.
Right. And if you're working towards growing the business, you need to be working towards a higher revenue responsibility per hour. So, one of the things, and we're talking about this right now on the Facebook group, which is there on all the Facebook groups I have, there's Contractor Strategy Group, there's Cabinet Maker Profit System, and then there's Profit Tool Belt. because why not have 3 Facebook groups? But the one thing we're talking about right now is your profit leaks. And profit leak number 1 is you have low sales, which sounds stupid. I mean, I'll be the first one to admit that sounds like the dumbest statement I could make. But you have to listen to what the statement is. You have low sales because you're going after the wrong customer. You have a collections problem because you're going after budget customers. You have the wrong customer because everybody's asking you for vanities and built-ins, which takes up time in your shop, but it's not your best use of your shop and crew. And so you have low sales for a reason. And so I like your point there. If I just advertise at a place where, like a Groupon, I'm going to attract Groupon type people. They're not really, maybe they're not even looking for a kitchen, but they're like, let's have a look. Maybe we'll do it. Well, I can't deal with maybes because I have to put 2 hours of my own time, which might be worth $500 per hour in the scope of the whole company. And that's $1,000 invested in a $1,200 vanity. It's not worth doing.
Yeah. But it is my responsibility as a business owner to take every phone call, answer everyone's question, and to kind of get a sense of where they're at. And what we've done recently, and because of the pandemic, has changed our estimating to a lot of either Zoom meetings, FaceTime walkthroughs, email exchanges with photos. That has turned into now going and doing a design consultation for a cost. So there's a cost, and I always offer clients 2 different ways, whatever works best for them. If you want to have a phone call, a FaceTime meeting to do a walk around, we can do endless exchanges of photos, and we can do designs through emails, no charge. If you want me to come out to the home, do a full design consultation, there's a small fee, but that fee is then applied towards the cost of the total job. So that lets me give the client the option, whether they want to, it also gives me feedback on how serious they are. Right away, like, no one ever charges me to do an estimate. And I said, well, it's not just, you're not just paying for the number, you're paying for my design input. I will walk you through, make sure you don't do any mistakes and kind of guide you down the right path, maybe help you make some better decisions and give you some different options that may create a better wow factor, but not have to spend as much. So that kind of helps tailor, I don't want to say eliminate the window shoppers, but it gives me feedback on who's really serious about a job.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? I know that doing design consultations helps because I just had one of my clients who ran into a problem with a customer who, once everything was in, phoned them back and said, hey, our coffee maker doesn't fit in the coffee maker space. And so they said, well, it fit before because I'm looking at our notes. Well, we bought a new one. Well, that's...
You threw me a curveball.
Yeah, that's now you just bought a new coffee maker. That's a completely different, function, or it's a completely different use of space for what it could be. And consumers, our customers, they don't buy cabinetry every day. They don't buy moldings every day. So they don't know necessarily all the right questions to ask. Whereas you do molding and cabinetry every day. So you do know the right questions to ask.
Part of that is an education to them. A lot of times when I'll explain things, they go, oh, I never thought about that, or I never saw it that way. So it helps.
Yeah. Yeah. John, this has been great. So good talking to you and hearing your experiences as a business owner. If somebody wants to get in touch with you, how would we find you in the big wide world?
You can find us on the web. You can find us at jlmoldingdesign.com, and we spell molding MOLDING. Yeah. You can do a Google search for JL Molding, contractors in the area. You can also give us a call in the business at 908-369-6824.
369, say that again, that last part?
6824.
6824. Awesome.
And as a business owner that works in the field, if I'm not in the office, I'll have my calls forwarded to my cell phone. So if you're taking the time to reach out to us, I'm always going to pick up.
Yeah. Well,
so if the customer takes the time, if I'm not on a ladder cutting on a saw, if I'm out in the field, those phone calls get sent right to me. I want to make sure that the customer takes the time to reach out to us, that I make my time available to them.
Yeah. You're very service focused, aren't you?
Yes. And I think that leads to the success that I have is, that focus on the customer.
Switching gears just a little bit. Tell us about this plane trip you're taking. You're going to the Bahamas?
Yeah. So we leave tomorrow morning. Make a few stops along the line. I think we're going to go to Charleston, then over to Savannah, Georgia, down to St. Augustine, Fort Lauderdale Executive, then Leonard Thompson, the Abacos, north of Eleuthera, San Salvador, Long Island, Norman Island. These are all islands in the Bahamas.
Yeah.
Back over to Florida. And then probably back up to Nashville and back into Jersey.
So is this a fun trip where you stop on all these islands, or is it a work trip where you're?
Well, anytime I'm away from the office, it's a workcation. I always have my cell phone. There's always emails that come through. So at nighttime, I do get back to those people that have questions, but this is just a bucket list trip.
Nice.
We haven't done anything for 2 years. So this is kind of a 2-year vacation coming up.
Good for you. That sounds pretty exotic, actually, and exciting. Please make sure you get out and do some fishing.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, it's wahoo season. It's wahoo season in the Bahamas.
It's always something season out there. It's so beautiful. So go and do that, and then send me pictures. Maybe we'll post them on the site so people can see it. Because I need to fish all over the world. It's what I was made to do. I just haven't done it yet.
Yeah. You and I have another conversation about that.
Okay. I'm all for it. Mr. Langan, thank you very much. It's been great having you on here. I appreciate you sharing your experiences with all the rest of the business owners. Yeah. Have a great day.
All right. You too. Take care now.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.